The Irem Collection is back with a third installment of classic arcade and home console goodies. Digital only this time, no more physical releases it seems. Oh well, let's see what they've pulled from the archives of one of my favorite 80s and 90s arcade game makers. The Irem Collection Volume 3 continues the tradition of featuring 3 old-school Irem arcade games, with some bells and whistles thrown in to enhance the experience. And I couldn't wait to get my hands on this one thanks to footage I saw of this first game in the collection. Dragon Breed from 1989 is a horizontal shooter that's a bit different from the rest. In it, you're a dude who frees a dragon, and then you ride the dragon for the entire game. The dragon can deflect or absorb incoming shots and also knock back enemies. Sometimes it can make enough contact with an enemy that will straight up kill them. You can maneuver the dragon's body around with the joystick, and in some circumstances, you can surround yourself entirely with it. Sometimes you can get off the dragon and run around if there's a flat surface available, but I would not recommend doing that. There doesn't seem to be that much benefit to it anyway, as far as I can tell. Unfortunately for me, there's a defect in my brain where I see the dragon as a living creature, and even though it cannot be injured in the gameplay, my instincts tell me to steer it around in such a way to avoid getting hit sometimes. This can result in the dragon rider, me, taking the incoming fire instead. It's the same problem I have in driving games, where you're tasked with crashing into things. Sometimes my brain just says, no, that's bad, don't do that. I guess these aren't bad problems to have, but as far as playing the game goes, it doesn't help. It gets me killed a lot. The most notable thing about Dragon Breed, aside from riding a dragon of course, is the game's difficulty. This is a tough one. When you die, you go back to a checkpoint, and the checkpoints are not generous. I spent a couple of hours and more than a couple of bucks in credits just trying to complete stage 3. And once I finally did, that was enough Dragon Breed for me. I'll come back to this one and play it on casual mode where you can enable cheats so I can see the rest of the game, but not today, and probably not anytime soon. It's neat though. The dragon riding concept really helps this one stand out. It was ported to at least 5 home computers by Activision in 1990, but none of those versions are included here, unfortunately. Mystic Riders is an arcade-exclusive 1992 horizontal shooter that lets you choose between 2, what I think are elven woodland creatures of some kind, riding brooms or wands or something, or 2 players can play each character in co-op. You fly through various environments, shooting the oddest assortment of enemies like turtles, skeletons, cloud monsters, ghosts, and gargoyle statues come to life. I guess it could be called a cute 'em up, but none of these things that very much want me dead seem very cute to me. Actually, I suppose this could be considered a cotton-like? Was Irem chasing a potential trend here? Computer, when did cotton come out?
Cotton was invented on January 1st, 1980 by historical figure A. Whitney Brown, who
Computer, stop. God, okay, I'll do it myself. Okay, it looks like the first Cotton game came out in Japanese arcades in 1991, so yeah, this could have been inspired by that. You have 3 weapons here, although one is just provided by the new controls in this release. You have your standard shot, which fires as a rapid shot. There's a charged version of that shot, and then you have an additional attack that I didn't even discover until stage 3 or so, where you can sling your broom wand thing like a boomerang. However, it should be noted that this weapon fires the opposite way you think it would. You aim down to fire it upwards, left to fire it right, etc. Your flying device can also damage enemies if you back its engine into them. And like Dragon Breed, you can land and shoot at enemies on foot, but the game never presents a situation where that seems to be required or even beneficial. The game runs for 2 loops of 6 levels each. Once you finish the first loop, you're encouraged to keep playing, and then you'll face the same 6 levels again, but slightly more difficult. In the end, you're presented with a very nice message that certain people these days should really listen to. Dragon Breed sent you back to a checkpoint if you got killed, but Mystic Riders starts you back right where you died. So even though you'd be pumping a lot of quarters into this one as well, it's absolutely finishable, proven by the fact that I, finished it. I like Mystic Riders. It's got that Irem charm to it, and it's not aggressively difficult like Dragon Breed. Unfortunately, this one never came home to any consoles or computers. The arcade game is all there ever was. Until now. And then there's Battle Chopper, or as it's known in Japan, Mr. Heli. It's a 1987 horizontal shooter featuring a cute little helicopter and a boatload of enemies that want you to stop living. Your weapon choices here are initially a bit confusing. You've got your standard weapon and the ability to shoot it left or right depending on which way you're flying. You also have missiles that fire straight up into the air. These are useful for any enemies above you, but more specifically, they're good for blasting away rocks that are hiding money. Collect enough money and you can purchase weapon or health upgrades from stores that are also hidden behind the rocks. You will also notice these breakable rocks on the ground. So how do you smash these? Well, when you land, you fire off bombs instead of missiles. These explode and break the rocks underneath you, allowing more money to enter Mr. Heli's wallet. I was a bit obsessed with all of this when I first started playing, but it's not advisable to do a bunch of hardcore mining because the enemies endlessly swarm you while you do. Collect what you can and move on. Battle Chopper was the only game in this compilation where I noticed any kind of technical issues, and I don't know if these were present in the arcade or if this has something to do with the emulation. But oftentimes in the game's brief vertical segments, the top of the screen will start trying to also appear about a third of the way down. It's like your score wants to invade the other parts of the screen. It's weird. Each stage of Battle Chopper is broken up into sub-stages, usually ending by finding a door you have to fly through to enter the boss's lair. And its difficulty is more like Dragon Breed than Mystic Riders. When you die, you restart at a checkpoint, usually the start of each substage. It can get frustrating, and it's another one where I will have to check out the game's final levels playing through it on casual mode. Mr. Heli was ported to at least 5 different computer systems at the time, but also to the PC Engine in 1989 as Mr. Heli's Great Adventure, and that game is included here as well. Like previous Irem ports to home consoles, this is a mostly faithful version of the game with only some very minor changes. For example, the controls feel a bit faster as you move around and shoot. Best of all though is something that I think is unique to the control scheme available in this collection, where you can hold down the right trigger and all 3 of your weapons fire repeatedly. That's right, you don't have to be on the ground to fire bombs now, which not only makes it easier to mine for money, but also to defeat enemies that are flying up from underneath you. With this enabled, I was actually able to complete the entirety of Stage 1 without even dying once. The difficulty does ramp up, however, and in order to give you value, you are only given 2 continues before it's permanently game over. And there are some behavior changes from the enemies to increase difficulty as well. The boss in Stage 2 behaves differently in the PC Engine version, making that fight much more frustrating. Aside from the title screen, the game seems to be very English friendly, so why this also didn't come over to North America for the TurboGrafx-16 doesn't make much sense. It would have been a unique entry in the early lineup for that console here in the US market. So there you go, 3 more horizontal shooters from Irem of varying difficulty. I continue to be a huge fan of what Irem was doing in arcades at the time. Despite some similarities, each game here feels unique with different mechanics and themes. The graphics are sharp, everything moves well, and the gameplay is fun. I do wish there was even some brief text somewhere to explain the differences between the Japanese and the world ROMs in this collection. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad they're both here for each of the 3 included games, but Usually, besides some changes on the title screens, I'm hard-pressed to figure out what's different in either version. Hell, even the title screens for Dragon Breed are identical. Anyway, does anyone have predictions for what's going to be in the next Irem collection? Will they continue to stick with shooters, or do we get another genre? Let me know in the comments if you have any guesses. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe and all that, I really appreciate it. It does help me out if you like what you're watching. Until next time, take care.